one more day, and you'll finally get to see who the new additions are for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'll tell you all about it here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's right, it is your team every day. And I am the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, Tony Wiggins, and it is your team every day. And we thank you for making us your first listen here on Locked On Jaguars. Quick reminder, we're free to subscribe to over on our YouTube page. Make sure you go over to YouTube, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and also hit the bell so you receive a notification each and every time we drop an episode. And then everywhere where you get your audio podcast, when you listen in every single day, make sure you tap in so you don't miss an episode of Locked On Jaguars. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side. It's a bag of fun, and a whole lot of fun on Monopoly Go. The mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. What's going on to the everydayer? Shout out to you being an everydayer, and you can make sure that you are an everydayer if you're not one just by joining up and listening every single day. Have y'all got fatigued yet? Are we draft fatigued? Have we got to the point where we go, man, I am so sick of mocks? I know some people that are now. I ain't gonna lie to you. I mean, we never really get tired of doing this. We start. I know people that's doing mock drafts for 2025 already. If y'all want to believe me, I'm telling you, they're doing 2025 mock drafts. I think there's probably a number you can call and get some help if that's what you're doing, because that's a little bit on the far side for me now. I ain't got it that bad to the point where I'm gonna sit here and I'm already doing mock drafts for 2025. I can't do it. Just can't do it. I ain't there yet, y'all. But I tell you where I am. I'm ready for this draft to get started. It's just always just it's a culmination of all of the information, what you think you know, who told you what lie, or who told you something else. And what happens is you finally get a chance to get it settled. There ain't nothing like them telling you what they're gonna do, and then ain't nothing like making the pick. Making the pick is like, that's the truth serum, baby. This is exactly what we were thinking the whole time. And you're gonna see how many people tell you exactly how right they were too. It's hard, man. It's really, really hard. That being said, it's so hard. The Jaguars have gotten their names back into the line of fire for maybe trading for a veteran wide receiver like Bandon Aiyuk, who apparently is still out there and available. We'll talk about that. Should they trade for a vet wide receiver or not? How come a lineman could be the key to the Jaguars getting a whole bunch of extra draft capital? I'll tell you who that lineman might be. If you looking on YouTube, you probably see it on a thumbnail. You wonder why in the hell did I choose that guy on our thumbnail? I'll tell you why, because there's going to be a run. There's going to be a run on linemen, and then there's going to be a next group of tackles, and the guy that I'm talking about is going to be the best one, and there may be somebody who wants to come up from the back and come up and take him. Adds value to the pick, and that means the Jaguars will then be able to start naming their price. I'll tell you who that's going to be. And finally, how come the second round seems like it's more fun than the first round? Probably because the second round is less anticlimactic, especially if your team is picking early. You kind of know where they're going if they're picking first or second. Ain't no guesswork in that. It's going to be different, though, just like last year when we had to wait until the Jaguars picked in the late 20s. They're picking 17th, which is the first pick of the second half of the second round, or the first round. So it's not as much of a foregone conclusion of who they're going to take. But the second round is even more intriguing. And I have a theory that the reason why the second round has been so fun for Jaguar fans is because I think it's been the most successful round. Now, granted, yeah, they took Tony Baselli and Fred Taylor two of the greatest Jaguars ever in the first round. But when you look at the fact that they took Maurice Jones-Drew and Rasheed Mathis and Brad Meester and Mo Williams and Tony Brackett, they have had so much success in that second round throughout the years. You can always get a player. You can get a player like when you get a second round guy, it's almost like he's either a late bloomer or he's a guy with a real big college career, but he just has like one little flaw and people want to know what's wrong with him. So we'll talk about that in segment 3. Back up to segment 1. Should they trade for a veteran receiver? No, I wouldn't do it. Not this late. It's time to pick now. I'm not trading my first round pick for Bandon Aiyuk or T. Higgins. Not at this stage, and then still have to go pay them both. And now you got to pay them a whole bunch more because Amon-Ra St. Brown. By the way, get you some friends and associates like the Detroit Lions that just woke up today and decided to give out $250 million or something like that. Amon-Ra St. Brown got a big contract, about $85 million guaranteed. And Penei Sewell, well, I don't know if Amon-Ra got $85 million, but I know he got like a 4 or 5 year deal for $120 some odd million. And then Penei Sewell got a 4-year, $120 million deal with $85 million guaranteed, which makes he's a way better player than Jawan Taylor, but it makes Jawan Taylor's contract look like nothing now. But yeah, that number has now gone up because of St. Brown. If you trade for Bandon Aiyuk's going to get $30 million a year at this point. At this point, that's what he's going to ask for. I don't blame him. Now, granted, that's league average. That's not actual guaranteed cash that he's going to get $30 million a year, but you know what I mean. The bottom line, man, is I think the price is too high now. I wouldn't be trading again for nobody that I need to go and re-sign, like the way they did with Calvin Ridley. They gambled and they lost. They basically got 1 year of production for a third and fourth round pick. They got 1 year of production. Not angry at them for doing it, but I'm just saying, save your picks. Save your picks. This is a draft that I think you get more picks. I don't think you make a deal like that this close to the draft and trade for Bandon Aiyuk. I just don't. I know a lot of people out there disagree with me because they think he's a real good player. I do too. I'm at the point during draft season where I'm ready for them to make a pick, man. I don't want them to give up a first round pick for Bandon Aiyuk. You can still have to pay him a bunch of money. When you're now paying Josh Allen a bunch of money, when you're now about to be paying Trevor Lawrence about the money. I know that you have a GM that's not used to hitting on players, but you know what? If he's still a GM, we got to try. They got to nail these draft picks, man. They can't just go out here and keep signing people in free agency and think that that's sustainable. It's not. It's just not going to happen. You're guaranteeing this team won't win a championship if you just keep wanting them to go out and trade all their draft picks and sign a bunch of veteran players. And I know Bandon Aiyuk is a very good player, and he would solve some problems. But you know what? You can solve your own problems by drafting better. Don't think I'm telling the truth? I'm going to tell you in segment 2 how if you look at the last 2 drafts, you wouldn't even be thinking about Bandon Aiyuk, and you probably wouldn't be thinking about being more physical on the offensive line had they just listened. I'll talk about that, and I'll also talk about what certain player, a certain lineman, why is he set up to maybe be the key for the Jacksonville Jaguars to be able to move back and get more picks. We'll go over all of that here on Locked On Jaguars as we get closer and closer to the NFL Draft. Passion, drive, and patience. That's right. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. You got that right, man. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, segment number 2 here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. Real quick. We got one more day until it's time for these teams to start drafting. People are talking about the Jaguars may still be in the market to trade for a wide receiver. I don't want to, and I'm being facetious when I say that, but I'm just saying it because we done got this close to the draft. I want to draft somebody now on day one. I don't want to be trading back. I know that's a bad reason to not do it, but I'm still just being a big baby about it. That's just the way it goes. The Jaguars wouldn't have a wide receiver problem if 2 years ago, instead of trading their second round pick, they would have taken George Pickens. And I know you're wondering, like, why are you bringing it up? Trent Baalke doesn't look backwards, so why should you? Well, because my name ain't Trent Baalke. My name is Tony Wiggins. So I'm looking back 2 years ago, and I'm looking back to last year. If they'd have stood where they were instead of trading back, they could have taken Osiris Torrance in the second round, right after they took Anton Harrison. The Jaguars could have had their interior offensive line, could have been younger on the offensive line, would not have had to make a trade for Ezra Cleveland, would not have had to re-sign Ezra Cleveland, and then they wouldn't be sitting here talking about an extra receiver because they already got one. And those are 2 second-round picks, which goes into why the second round is so fun for me, and we'll get to that in segment 3. But this is why I want them to hold on to their draft choices. In fact, I want them to get more draft choices. One way that they can get draft choices, more picks, is if a whole bunch of quarterbacks goes in front of them, and then a whole bunch of offensive linemen go in front of them. Why? Because I looked at the different groups, and there are teams that are picking late in the first round that really want offensive tackles. But if there's a run on all of these tackles, specifically ones that are versatile enough to play on both sides of the line, you could then see teams that are sitting in the lower 20s start reaching for some of these people. One of them is a young man I have on my thumbnail by the name of Jordan Morgan. Jordan Morgan is an offensive tackle at Arizona. I looked at him last year when I thought he was coming out in the draft, and I thought he was going to be a tremendous player, and he ended up being even better than I thought. And now he's a dude that everyone is talking about possibly going at the end of the first round. However, that could change. That could change if there starts to be a run on tackles. And a few months back, I went on our DM. We have a Locked On NFL DM, and I gave them some information that I had gotten from an NFL exec. I started naming offensive linemen that I thought might be around when the Jaguars picked. And at the time, I didn't know where the Jaguars were picking. I think it was, I think the draft order hadn't been settled yet, but I knew that they were going to be picking somewhere between 17 and 20 something. And I started naming all of these dudes, and I went through all the names: Fatanu, Fashanu, Fuaga, all of those cats. I even named Graham Barton. I went through him. I said Amarius Mims, and dude kept telling me they ain't gonna be there. They ain't gonna be there. And I'm thinking, like, hold on, man, I named like 6 of them, and they ain't gonna be there. I'm telling you. I said, so is this a situation where because you're in personnel, you're gonna sit here and tell me that 50 guys are gonna be picked number 1 because y'all like everybody? That's how these dudes are. They love everybody, right? He said, no, I'm just telling you that there's gonna be a run on offensive linemen, and all those dudes you named isn't gonna be there. That kind of died down. I told the fellas that Locked On about it and the ladies that Locked On. Shout out to Patty. And we kind of like put it on the back burner until I saw a report today that kind of told me that all those offensive linemen ain't going to be there when the Jaguars pick at 17. So we'll see. We'll see. I do believe teams are really going hard, man. They are going full bore to do everything they can to try to protect these quarterbacks and keep them up off the ground because they're spending so much money on them. There's rumors out there now that Trevor Lawrence is going to break the bank and become the highest paid quarterback in the league. And see, this is what's happening. Guys that aren't even that accomplished are becoming the highest paid quarterback in the league in all time. And that means everybody's getting paid at quarterback. Well, exception to Dak Prescott, who's going to make $59 million in his last year, but Jerry needs to see more, but that's not what we're talking about here today. I just had to throw that out there. But isn't it good to not have those problems? I do believe, though, that Jordan Morgan's name is hot and that is going to benefit Jacksonville. Maybe not at 17, but if they decided to go from 17 to, say, 20 or 21, and then both the Chiefs as well as the 49ers, who are in the market for younger offensive linemen, want to call them from, say, pick 31 and 32. If I'm going to go all the way to the back of the first round, guess what you're going to give me? You're going to give me a second round pick. And what I'm trying to do is set up day 2 for Jacksonville to be a really, really good day. I'm trying to set day 2 up so that the Jaguars have at least 3 picks instead of 2, and maybe can even turn those 3 picks into 4 if they were to move some of those 4th round picks. Because there's a hot spot in this draft, and I want the Jaguars to have 3 or 4 bites of the apple between, like, maybe pick 50 and, well, they picked 48th already. So if they pick between 48 and, say, pick number 105 or 110, I want the Jaguars to get 4 selections in that area. And right now they only have 2. Because I think that's where a lot of the meat and potato of this draft is. Why does it seem like the Jaguars, we talked about this earlier, why does it seem like they have more luck and the second round has been more of a friendlier round to them than the first round? Well, that's because it has. It has actually over the years. And sometimes I also believe it's just a situation where you make those picks without a lot of pressure on you, and you don't have to subscribe to the whole who's the better long-term prospect. You just take the dude. There's not a whole bunch of pressure on you. You can just take the dude that you think is going to be better, right? I want to discuss that in just a second here in the third segment on Locked On Jaguars. But if you're watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume because of all of the shouting, sometimes even muting it doesn't work, you can still hear them yelling, make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest story without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channel app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, talking about second round luck. Maybe if the Jags had done better in the second round the last couple of years, we wouldn't be sitting here wanting them to pick certain players at certain positions. We'll talk about it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. You better get off and get into some of that Monopoly Go, man. You got to do it. Monopoly Go is taking all of the holidays and family get-togethers by storm. It is a spin on Monopoly. That's right. It's a great twist on Monopoly. And I know you've heard of it because it's been downloaded over 150 times. It's where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you in big money. If you're a competitor like me and my family, it can get real, real crazy, but also you can just have a whole lot of fun. The best part is just being around your family and having a good time. But I'm gonna charge them rent when they land on my properties. I'm just letting you know because that's the way it goes in Monopoly. I can also heist their vaults or riches all for myself. And the leaderboard show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's just all in good fun, like I said. You can team up with friends and people around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. Third and final segment here on Locked On Jaguars. As we are turning the corner, we are one day away from the Jacksonville Jaguars having a draft party where they will start out the day with the 17th pick and they will make a selection. We will, of course, have all things draft covered for you on tomorrow and, of course, Friday as we head into the weekend, giving you all the information you need on the Jaguars draft picks. And also, we will be on Locked On NFL Live, we will be doing updates throughout the draft. Make sure you check that out. You can check the mock draft out now that has been out now for a couple of weeks. The mock draft for Locked On Jaguars is available wherever you get your podcasts on Locked On Sports Today, the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Also, make sure you check that out. But historically, there have been times when it seems like day two is the better day for the Jaguars. It's more fun because you get multiple picks. You know, the day one is all about the first round, but day two, that's where you see a lot of names and names that you thought you were going to see go off the board. Like I said, without going too far back, the last couple of years, Osiris Torrance was sitting there as one dude. Not only was he sitting there, but 2 years ago, George Pickens was sitting there. Pickens has been pretty good, not great. Osiris Torrance has been really, really good. It's just that whenever the Jaguars, you ever sit and wonder what are they thinking when they pass up on dudes that you think can play, and then those dudes turn out to really be able to play, and it's at positions that they're still looking to go and fix, and you're just wondering, like, man, what were you thinking? Why didn't you take him? It was obvious to everybody that the dude could play. Why didn't you take him? It's like, did you really need Brenton Strange that bad that you couldn't take Osiris Torrance? It's like it gets in your mind, and you're just sitting there thinking, like, what were you doing? But that's why they talk about it. They say they don't like going backwards. They don't like going backwards and looking at what they've done in the past. We're gonna go backwards though, because if we end up with a DB as good as Rasheem Mathis, I'd be doing cartwheels. I absolutely would. Day two has been really good. Day three has been good. When you think about guys like Darryl Smith that were taken in day three, but Rasheem Mathis. Day two, Brad Meester. Ooh, would y'all want another Brad Meester for another 14 years on this team? Mo Williams, Jawan Taylor. Those dudes were good picks. I believe Vince Manawai, was taken around that time. Yeah, man, just that second round at Tony Bracken's. Just think about it. Woo! Some heat. There are a lot of second round picks. The Jaguar fan base, when you look back in retrospect, they'll take them over the guy that ended up being picked first. And that's going to happen, by the way. There's a lot of these dudes on these names on these lists, man. It ain't going to be what you think it's going to be. It's not. They're not going to be as good. They're going to turn out and not be as bad. So we can, ridicule people. And really, you give the benefit of the doubt to people who have done a better job in the past. Sometimes when teams haven't done a good job, that's when fans don't trust the GM. Even if it's a real good pick, they ain't going to trust it just because that GM made it. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to day two. I'm really, really looking forward to Friday. Friday's going to be fun. Even Saturday, when the Jaguars start the day out with 2 fourth-round picks, it's going to be even fun. I want them to position themselves, though, to have multiple picks on Friday. Not just the 2 that they already have, the second round and the compensatory pick. But for me, unless it's Quinion Mitchell, I say go ahead and move down, move around, get as many picks as you can, man, and then make sure you keep your first so you have that 5th-year option. But then what I do, man, I just load up. I'd load up on seconds and thirds, and just try to get it while the getting is good. And you don't necessarily have to get guys that are going to be playing this year. You get guys that want to play this year, but if you already have guys that play those positions, then fine, tell them to go earn it. And I think that's that friction that causes the combustion, that causes liftoff for your franchise. That's what I truly, truly believe. Make sure you check out the fact that Locked On has launched the first ever national 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available in the free Fire TV channels app. All right, man. Tomorrow's a big day. We're going to be all over this thing all day tomorrow. Any news, notes, or any gossip or anything that I think is newsworthy, I'll definitely reach out to you. One more day until the team makes its pick. Until then, you guys make sure you take care. Make sure you check on Locked On NFL and Locked On Jaguars, wherever you get your podcast. Your team every day. We always thank you for making us your first listen.